Hey Reddit.
Sex workers of Reddit, have you ever fallen in love with a John? What happened afterwards?
We need your help to grow. Like and subscribe for more daily content.
Friend of mine did. She'd been sex trafficked, held against her will to work off her visa and had her passport confiscated. He was a client of hers, and when they got close enough she told him her story and he worked with law enforcement to get her out. They've been married over a decade now.
How'd you two meet? Oh, it's kinda a funny story.
This is amazing.
God. This was years ago when I was 21, but it brings back a lot of emotions even now. One of my regulars was a disabled gentleman in his 50s. He had broken his spine in an industrial accident and was paralyzed from the chest down. He'd gotten a large settlement and invested in property, including his beautiful accessible cabin on the lake. He'd pay for me to spend weekends with him there, as well as trips to the coast and the casino, where he would give me money to play slots or see a show while he played cards. He was kind and funny and had a comforting nature. I had bad experiences with men, but his disability made him vulnerable and open in a way that moved me and put me at ease. I even learned some of his care routines so I could be with him for longer periods. He died when he developed a clot in his leg that broke free and got into his lungs. I didn't find out until 2 weeks afterward. His passing really shook me. I thought I had distance. I didn't realize how much I cared for him until he was gone.
Losing anyone who was genuinely kind and respectful to you would be so devastating. I'm sorry about that.
First comment in almost a year. You write very well. I haven't made it very far down in this thread, but your comment is super special. It made me think that Op's question is almost exactly the thing you were waiting for so long to answer.
I worked as a stripper and fell in love with the manager. I saw girls always fawning over him, leaving some tips on stage so he would bring them back to the dressing room and they could flirt with him. I assumed it was a phase and tried to ignore my feelings. At the time I was suffering from chronic pain and an eating disorder. He just cared so much and went out of his way to help. We've now been married for 15 years and have 3 children.
Aw, bless your family, mate.
Honestly, the fact that all the other girls liked him too probably says he is a great guy and good manager. That's great that it was hopefully a good establishment to work at.
From the customer side, I was in relationship with a sex worker. One of the best of my life. We met as you would imagine, but without going into too many details, she was different and I soon became obsessed. I would see her every chance got. I was living in another country at the time, so had no real friends, and she helped me with a lot of things. Getting an apartment set up and stuff like that. I hoped we were heading for more than a client-customer relationship, but did not want to jinx it. One day she did not take the money I left out, and when I pointed that out she got upset and basically told me I was an idiot for not noticing that we were now in a relationship. She was a sex worker for a few months and mainly had regular. After that it was just me and her. I loved her and I know she felt the same about me. We were together for a little over a year, and even when we broke up we stayed friends. That was over 10 years ago and we stayed in touch after. We have been on holiday together since. She has visited me at home. She has now moved back home, is running a successful business and is getting married soon to a guy who really looks after her. I still care about her and I'm glad that she is happy.
I love this. You seem like a great bloke and her a great lady.
I've encountered this story hundreds of times in Thailand. I'm glad your experience was positive and not like many of the nightmares I've heard about.
Using my throwaway. I was a sugar baby the moment I turned 18. Started having sex with a 60-year-old doctor. I was poor, so the constant showering of gifts, money, dinners, vacations, and clothes, I guess made me fall in love with him. All I would think about was Lonnie, fake name, and what amazing thing Lonnie had planned for us that day. One day I get a call from Lonnie and he tells me we can't see each other anymore because he had caught feelings for me. I took this as my opportunity to tell him how I felt, and I really thought we would get married. He then told me, I can't be in love with a whore, so I have to let you go and move on to another girl I don't have feelings for. I was broken and depressed for a long time. I ended up using some of the money he gave me for therapy and eventually I got over it.
Good use for the money. At least.
You had the whole world of names at your disposal and the name you landed on was Lonnie.
A friend of mine's sister and her friend are sex workers. They both fell in love with the same customer. The bloke was a bikie and I'm pretty sure they loved the free drugs he gave them. Not him. They had a huge blowout over this guy and basically didn't take long before they stopped communicating. They both confessed their love for him and he cut ties with both because he wanted to spend more time with his wife.
I'm a bikie man from a bikie gang. Living in my crack den making crack.
What a good husband. Letting his sex workers go to spend time with his wife.
Related only. But one of my friends with unlimited business expenses was hosting in NYC clients from London. That night ended up at a strip club across the street from my home. And $1,000 in lap dance tickets, $20 each in the middle of the table. I tried one. Not my thing, so I pocketed 3 of the tickets as souvenirs. A year later, my nephew was visiting me as he turned 21. So I gave him the 3 tickets and sent him to the strip club. He did not return, but called at 8 a.m. I'm making breakfast over at Dawn's place. They went out for a few months.
A lap dance ticket. Like it's a fucking Disney park.
What a stud.
Y'all need to go read this shiz.
Holy shiz. That was great. Thanks for sharing and I hope it fairytales itself into the sunset. Incredible.
I see she did an update a month later and all going well.
I'll start with my story to get the ball rolling. Former sex worker. When I was 18 I began seeing a married man in his early 40s who treated me with respect. Genuinely listened and helped me with my school. And we hung out a lot too without having sex. After about 3 months of seeing him almost every day I started to become attached. Then one day I told him that I thought I was in love with him and he told me, "I still love my wife. I only keep you around for your head game." I was devastated and never saw him again.
Never, ever, ever. Rule 1. You had to know this.
What's your head game supposed to mean?
When I was in Amsterdam I did a red light tour. And the tour guide told us how when he was young and inexperienced he shopped around the windows for a while. Found the beautiful woman he'd ever seen. And kept coming back until he worked up his nerve. Eventually he went in. Stayed in there talking to her until about 4 in the morning. Then she took him back to her place. That was 9 years before he told us the story and they'd been together since then. She still worked as a sex worker and he was so open about everything. It was really interesting to get such an outlook from a tour guide.
Man, that's really sweet. I imagine you have to be open about everything if you date someone in that line of work.
My fiancée is a stripper at a bikini bar. I used to frequent her club because my friend's sister was a bartender there and would hook me up on my bar tab. I met my fiancée and got to know her pretty well over the next 2.5 years. Then one night we were both there for my friend's the bartender birthday and got pretty drunk. She told me she had a crush on me and then later said she wanted to go home with me. Which she did. A year to the day after that I asked her to marry me. And I've been in the best relationship of my life for almost 4 years.
That's cool.
Coming